The measuring stick just changed around here, buddy. You're looking at it.
You are now listening to the Outsiders Podcast, the most exciting and hard-hitting show on the net. And now, bringing it hard as always on the Kansas City Chiefs and the NFL, here are your hosts, Clint Schweitzer and Noah Groniger.
And it's time for us. We're going to catch up with Richmond Webb here briefly. Of course, you'll remember Richmond as the man who protected Dan Marino's blindside in Miami for all those years. Of course, he was a Dolphin for a decade.
Yep. Then it's been his last 2 years in Cincinnati. We're going to ask him about Dan Marino. Is he really not as good as people say he is, or should he be considered one of the best quarterbacks, even though he didn't win a Super Bowl? He's a pure passer. It's a team game. You can't just count Dan Marino's arm and his talent just because he didn't win a Super Bowl. We'll ask him about who's the best pass rusher he faced. Bruce Smith, Derek Thomas. We'll get his thoughts on them. And what does he think of this new team with Ryan Tannehill, Mike Wallace, and the new logo? How does he feel about that?
Well, with that said, let's bring Richmond Webb onto the program.
All right, we're here with Richmond Webb, former offensive tackle, left tackle, protecting Dan Marino's blind side. How's it going, Richmond?
Good. How you doing tonight?
Oh, we're doing well. So what was it like playing with Dan Marino?
It's probably some of the most fun I've ever had playing football. To be able to line up with that guy for about 10 years and probably the ultimate competitor, and just his will to win kind of just, flow throughout, not only on the offensive but defensive side of football, and it just resonated throughout the team. So he's one of the greatest players I ever played with.
All right, we have a fan question from Karen Vendetti. She wants to know if you have any good stories playing with O.J. McDuffie or Keith Sims, kind of practical joke kind of stuff.
Well, I don't think I have any good practical jokes, but Keith we played side by side for about 8 years. And the good thing about that is we came in the same year, and it was kind of like, I think that was a perfect draft, one of the best drafts for the Dolphins. Because from day one, you would have swore we went to college and high school together. We just kind of meshed right from the beginning. And OJ, one of the toughest wide receivers I ever played a game with. Fierce competitor, not scared to go across the middle. So, two great guys that I played with that I have tremendous amount of respect for.
How do you feel about the new practice and game rules that are going on in the NFL today?
I understand the about player safety, and I understand what the NFL is trying to do. It's just kind of different because football is an aggressive sport, and you have to think about life after football. But when you hear some of the changes initially, it just kind of makes you wonder how the game is going to continue to transition into. So I'm going to kind of wait and see, but some of these about some of the hits or whatever, that's kind of what we live for on Sundays. But they're changing that, and I understand why. So I kind of got mixed feelings on that one.
How do you view the Dolphins' potential going into this 2013 season? They signed Mike Wallace. They obviously have Ryan Tannehill, who had a pretty solid rookie season. So what do you see coming into 2013?
Well, I'm very optimistic, and I think the addition of Wallace as a receiver, deep threat. Tannehill had a good rookie season, and now it's starting to surround him with playmakers. And no matter how good you are, you need those guys that can stretch the field and make plays. And it not only helps offensively but defensively. So I'm excited about some of the moves they made this offseason. So I'm looking forward to it.
Going back to your career, you guys were in a playoff game in 1999 against the Jacksonville Jaguars, and I remember that game going into it, and we had a playoff pool. I picked the Dolphins. I What happened in that game? 62-7 Jaguars.
Yeah, I remember that game. It was like that was one of those games that would never end. It was one of those games that I think the Jaguars played a perfect game. It seemed like everything they tried worked that day, and before we knew it, we was probably down by 40 points. I mean, it was like a blowout. That game still sticks in my head. I knew it was exactly the game we were talking about. So, that was just, they played a perfect game that day. We just couldn't really get anything going, and we got so far behind. And we kind of probably had to scrap the playbook and, just try to play catch up, but we just couldn't get it going that day.
What do you think about this new Dolphins logo without the helmet on the Dolphin?
I'm not crazy about it. Maybe once I see it on a uniform or something that, the owners, from what I heard, the owners picked it or whatever. So, I hadn't actually saw a poll how most fans feel about it, but I'm not crazy about it. But hey, once it kind of, you keep seeing it in the imagery and you kind of brand it on you, I guess it's okay.
Who was the toughest linebacker or defensive end you went against there at the left tackle position?
That would be an easy question. That would be Bruce Smith for Buffalo. Having to face that guy 2, sometimes 3 times a year, and he was just a great pass rusher. And then as his career evolved, he continued to work on things, and he was just as tough against the run as a pass. But that also made me elevate my game. So I always look forward to playing against those type caliber players. But by far, he was the toughest guy I had to face.
Well, being in Kansas City, I got to ask you about Derek Thomas. Do you have any memories of going up against him and what kind of battle that was for you?
Yeah, I remember Derek playing, I think my rookie year, we played Kansas City in the playoffs, and we actually beat them. And one of the fastest guys that ever come off the corner, Hall of Famer, just not only a great football player, but I remember the off-field work as far as working with kids, giving back. Derek always did that, so it was just tragic to see him get, killed in that car accident. But he was a good friend of mine, so I know him well, and he was a great pass rusher.
What do you say to those people who say that maybe they don't rank Dan Marino amongst the greatest quarterbacks because he never won a Super Bowl? I've always considered him one of the best pure passers, maybe the best quarterback. Just didn't have the other pieces around him, maybe on the defensive side, to be a complete team and win that Super Bowl. I still rate him as maybe the best quarterback in NFL history.
Yeah, his stats speaks for itself, and people can say whatever they want to, and they can find excuses or look for reasons. If you look hard enough, you'll find them. But the thing I said is, football is a team sport, and I can remember early on where we had real good offensive teams and the defense wasn't good. And then I remember the transition where we started spending more money on defense, and the offense, was the thing is everything just kind of got to line up just right. No injury. You go out and compete, you put it on the line, and then at the end of the day, you can look back with no regret. And I think that's the way Dan looks at it. No matter what they say, I played with that guy, and I lined up with him and fought with him in the huddle. And no matter how much time was left, if it was the way he figured we could pull the game out, he was competing until the end. So I really don't give much weight to that. He was one of the greatest quarterbacks that ever played the game.
Oh, definitely. What was one of the most toughest or challenging parts of your career with the Miami Dolphins or with the Bengals when you moved there?
I guess from moving from Miami to Cincinnati, I think the toughest thing was some of the challenges was not getting ready for the games. That you move to a different division, and their arch rivals were more like the Steelers, Cleveland,
What do you think about being named as one of the all '90s decade team? You were one of the tackles that they named as one of those. What were your feelings about that?
Well, I mean, anytime you get honored and you get that type of recognition, and it's definitely an honor. It makes you feel good, and it's coming from different sports writers or whatever, people. So that means that they respect your game and the way you go out and approach and play, and not over just 1 year, but over a span of a decade, and even make that game was a tremendous honor. So I don't take that lightly, and I do cherish making all decades.
Now you played at Texas A&M, and we just had Luke Joeckel go to the Jaguars with the number 2 pick. The Chiefs took Eric Fisher at number 1. I wanted to know if you've been paying attention to Texas A&M still, what you think of Eric Fisher, or what you think of Luke Joeckel and Eric Fisher if you've compared the two.
I saw some film clips on Eric Fisher during the draft. I watched the draft. That was a question: who would they take number 1? And Luke ended up going number 2. And I think what helped elevate Eric Fisher was that he was a senior. He had a good combine, and he also had a good Senior Bowl. And the Senior Bowl and everything like that. So I think that helped nudge probably Fisher to that number 1 spot. But I think they're both going to be great players. And I can kind of relate with Eric Fisher. That's kind of how I seen him play out. Went to the Senior Bowl, headed to the Senior Bowl game. And, that's a place where your stock shoot way up and go way down. And it also helped me, propel me to move up in the top 10 in the draft. And also had a good combine workout. So that's the only thing about being a junior. It's only got the film that you played your junior season, but if you don't get a chance to participate in the bowl game, or you went to the combine, but you don't get a chance to play against what's considered the best of the best going to the Senior Bowl. I think that was what made the determining factor for Fisher being the number 1 pick.
Can you kind of tell our fans what you're up to nowadays, 2013? How do you keep yourself busy?
Well, a couple of years ago, me and a guy I went to college with, we started a wastewater stormwater company. It's environmental machines and services, and we're located in Houston, Texas, and we do service, maintenance operations, and we also do rebuild on machines for the wastewater industry, like blading frames or bell filter presses, and we also sell parts and stuff like that. So, small minority company here in Houston, and everything's going so far so good. So that's what I'm devoting my time to right now.
One more quick question here for you, Richmond. How important is the left tackle position in the NFL today? We've heard it's one of the most important going through the 90s into the early 2000s. How important is it today as you watch the Cleveland Browns with Joe Thomas, maybe the best left tackle in the league today, but not making the playoffs or the Super Bowl?
Well, I mean, I think you said it there. Even though they're not making the playoffs or the Super Bowl, Joe Thomas, Washington's great, had an opportunity to meet that young man. Great, love his game. But you won't see Cleveland trading that guy, because when you find a guy like that, if you can keep him there 10 or 12 years, it's so valuable to protecting the blind side of your quarterback. And if you want to pay a quarterback, I guess it's somewhere between $15-20 million a year now. That's why I think you've seen the salaries really escalate for the left tackle position, because they know how vitally important it is. If you're going to pay a guy that type of money, you want to try as well as possible to keep that guy healthy. So that hadn't changed, and I don't think it will change unless we just get a enormous amount of left-handed quarterbacks in the NFL.
Yeah, I hear you there. Yeah, Richmond, thank you so much for being on. We can't thank you enough. Former left tackle from the Miami Dolphins, protecting Dan Marino's blind side. We hope to catch up with you soon again, maybe closer to the season for an NFL preview. We can take a closer look at the 2013 Dolphins, what's going on there. Thank you so much, and take care, Richmond.
Hey, thank you. Y'all have a good night.
You too.
Bye-bye.
Richmond, we appreciate it. Very insightful. Great to hear from Richmond, who at one point was probably one of the best left tackles in the league in the mid '90s, and
made the 1990 All-Decade team. So I mean, 7-time Pro Bowler, 5-time All-Pro. Richmond Webb protecting Dan Marino's blind side. That's one of the most important things for any organization, especially when you have a quarterback like Dan Marino to protect him, give him time to throw. And Richmond Webb was the best at that. And it was great to hear him talk about Bruce Smith being the best pass rusher, probably because they were in the same division. He played him more often. But he also talked about Derek Thomas and his speed and just relentlessness and just what kind of an animal he was to face down in and down out.
Thanks a lot, Richmond. We appreciate it, my man.